Today we're making sticky Asian-inspired beef ribs with an herby gremolata and pairing them with the perfect bold red wine for a flavor-packed appetizer. So my intent with these Asian-style beef ribs is that they're an appetizer. You can have them as an appetizer, but you can also have them as a part of a larger meal. I'm using beef ribs. These are actual, they were whole beef ribs before they were cut. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So these were all together. So as you can see, there's bones. And I wanted to make sure that I had a bone for each piece of meat. But they were all together and they just basically cut them this way. All right, so I'm going to run my knife through and I'm going to cut them between each bone. And we'll have individual pieces that I'm gonna rub with some salt, pepper, garlic, ginger. As far as my ingredients for the Asian-inspired ribs, I've got, first of all, this is my the ingredients for the gremolata. If you're not familiar with the gremolata, basically we're gonna use this to sprinkle on top of the ribs. So we've got green onions, cilantro, Thai basil, we've got a red chili pepper, I've got lime, I'm gonna get the zest from that, and I've got some sesame seed. As far as the sauce for the ribs, I've got hoisin sauce, I've got honey, rice vinegar, I've got gochujang, sesame oil, Chinese 5-spice powder, white pepper, soy sauce, and I've got some chicken stock. As far as my ribs are concerned, I've got fresh garlic and ginger and salt and pepper. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get these ribs cut. I'm gonna cut them right smack in the middle of these two bones. So I'm gonna place my rib pieces back into this dish. Got some fresh cracked black pepper. And I got some salt. All right, so onto my ribs, I'm gonna add my garlic and ginger and I'm gonna rub that in. I'm ready to put together my sauce. All of my ingredients are going to go into this pot. Starting with soy sauce. Hoisin sauce. Honey. Rice wine vinegar. Gochujang. Sesame oil, Chinese 5-spice, and white pepper. So I'm gonna bring this up to a little boil, reduce the heat, and allow it to simmer for about 5 minutes or so. Once I get it simmered and allow it to thicken, we're gonna set it aside, and we're gonna use, like I said earlier, we're gonna use some of this to braise our ribs in once the ribs are seared. My sauce is simmering. I've got some cornstarch and water. I'm gonna make a little slurry to thicken this up. All right, the sauce is thick. I'm gonna set this aside. I've got a saute pan here, and I'm gonna heat this up, and I'm gonna sear my beef ribs. I've got some vegetable oil. And I want to sear these ribs on all sides. Smells fantastic. That ginger and garlic, along with the smell of that searing beef, unbelievable. Searing these ribs builds flavor before slowly braising them to fall off the bone perfection. The sauce is packed with soy sauce, honey, hoisin, Chinese 5-spice, all of that together creating a sweet, savory depth. I'm gonna pour about half of my sauce onto my ribs. I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil. I've got my oven preheated to 300 degrees. These are going to go in the oven for 2.5 hours. All right, let's make the gremolata. I've got my Thai basil. I'm going to pull some of these leaves off of here. This gremolata is our secret weapon with these ribs. The basil, the cilantro, the green onions, the lime, the chili pepper, and the sesame brings a bright, fresh contrast to the sticky, rich ribs. Kind of pull some cilantro from the top of the bunch. I'm going to chop this up. All right, the herbs go into the bowl. I'm going to slice up some green onions. Into the bowl with the onions. I'm going to dice up my red chili pepper. I got this lime. I'm gonna get the zest off of the lime. I've got some sesame seeds. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more sesame seed. Get that mixed up. This is gonna go on top of the ribs, as I mentioned earlier, to add a nice bright freshness to the rich, sweet, sticky ribs. My ribs are done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sauce them, get them on this rack. I've got my broiler heating up, and I wanna get them broiled just for a few minutes. I want the sauce to caramelize a little bit, thicken a little bit. Let's see what we're working with here. Nice and fork tender. I'm gonna pull these ribs out of here and get them in that sauce. Toss it in the sauce. Try to keep the bone intact if I can. If not, that's fine too. But I want to keep the bones intact. All right, so I decided to pair the 2019 Betts Le Cote Patriarch Syrah. It's a 2019 from Yakima Valley in Washington State. I'll get some in this glass. All right, my ribs are ready. All right, everything's done. Let's get into tasting. So we got the Betts Le Cote Patriarch in the glass. Give it a taste. Full bodied on the palate. Spicy, it's got a nice peppery finish. Deep fruit. Really, really rich fruit flavors. Dark fruit. Really, really juicy. Let's see what's going on with this meat. Sweet, sticky, nice Asian flavors. I mean, because you saw everything that we had going on in there. That 5 spice powder is prominent. This is really, really good. Let's see if it pairs with this wine. That is fantastic. Oh, wow. As I said, this is really, really rich with deep, dark fruit. That is really pairing well with the richness, the sweet, sticky smokiness of these ribs. Marriage made in heaven. You gotta try this pairing. but I gotta double check. Let me double check for you. And they're tender. As I mentioned when we were doing the searing, the slow braise, this is just, it's melting in the mouth. Falling, as you saw, falling off the bone, melting in my mouth. But it's not so overcooked or so tender that it's just too tender and falling apart. It's not. It's holding together. It's got a nice mouthfeel. But let me double check, as I said. Wow. That is a perfect pairing. I'm Chef Glenn B, and as always, eat well.